Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with Trade, and I'm happy to welcome you to our weekly webinar. I usually say it at the end, but I want to wish everyone a great weekend, whatever's left, and prepare for a very intense week. We have a lot of things happening, a lot of data, a lot of decisions, and definitely market will be reacting to it. So it's good to be prepared. A few things about myself, a small introduction. This is me, Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with Trade. I've been happily trading for the past 23 years, and I started as a prop trader back in New York City. And after 11 years of stressful environment, I moved on to a different way of trading, and I started to mentor and educate other traders. And I'm happy that currently I have a great opportunity to help and assist our customers at AvaTrade. The agenda of the webinar, for regular people, we do this for new people. Pretty much what we do here, trying to create a plan for the week in 2 words. So we talk about indices, stocks, commodities, forex. We talk a little bit about fundamentals. We discuss the economic calendar, which is important, and that's it pretty much. Risk warning. You can find a full statement at avatrade.com. What we do here is purely educational. Now, these are the channels of AvaTrade. I highly recommend for you to take advantage of it. You have Telegram, you have Twitter, which is X now, you have a YouTube channel, which is my favorite, as I always say. You have a lot of educational materials there. You have tutorials. You have all kind of things that could be useful, especially for beginners. And you have webinars being recorded and posted, so don't get stressed if you missed a webinar. We have a lot of them. My colleagues and I would do it on a weekly basis. You can find it and find a convenient time for you to go through it. And if you are watching this on YouTube right now, please click on likes if you do like it. Of course, don't fake it. And please feel free to share it with people that might benefit from it. And definitely subscribe and click on the bell so you'll be notified when new things are being added. Okay, so before we go into the upcoming week, it's been a positive week for the markets. Equities or U.S. equities indices had 6 consecutive weeks to the upside. We had NFP numbers this past Friday, and they showed the growth, and unemployment went down, and also consumer sentiment went much higher than expected at 69.4. So market took it in a positive way. Initially, the initial reaction was to the downside, as everybody's used to. Good news is a bad news, as sorry, the opposite way. The bad, yeah, actually, yeah, the good news is the bad news, because if the everything shows positive, that means the Feds might keep the rates high for longer. And but then the market turned around and went higher. So I'm afraid to say that, or happy to say that, I'm not sure anymore because it's been so confusing. But it looks like good news is a good news, and market took it in a positive way. So we did have a 6 consecutive weeks move to the upside. Okay, so that's as far as the past week. Now, this upcoming week is going to be very busy. As I said, we have three major interest rates. We have a meeting. The Feds are starting the meeting on Tuesday, and Wednesday we have a decision with the press conference, which is the most important thing. And then we have the following day, on Thursday, we have decisions from European Central Bank and from Bank of England. So a lot of data, a lot of events this upcoming week. So uh, let's see what's waiting for us. So this is the article. You can take a look at marketwatch.com, And it says right here that one of the analysts, his name is Tom Lee. He's from Fund Strats. I really don't know what that is, but they are posting it here. So it says that S&P index is supposed to rally to 5,200 the end of next year. Okay, so it sounds bullish, and in general, as we speak in the past few weeks, that everybody's, oh, not everybody, but a lot of analysts are expecting the rally or center class rally, and this week is crucial for that. Let's see what the Feds are doing. I mean, it's almost 100% that they're not increasing, but the main focus is going to be a projection going forward and possible starting of decrease of interest rate or reduce the interest rate next year. So we'll definitely watch that. And before that, we have, of course, the CPI data coming on Tuesday, which is important for Feds to see. And the same day, the day of decision on the Wednesday, I think it's PPI. We'll take a look at the economic calendar at the moment. So as I said, be ready. It's going to be a lot of actions, as they say. Fasten your seatbelts in the upcoming week. It's going to be exciting. Okay, economic calendar. Before we go into just to explain or share with new people the importance of it, some people don't care about it, or some traders don't care about it. I can't blame them. If that works for you, it's fine. But in my opinion, even if you're not using these numbers, which is really still very hard to, as I like to say, even if you knew the numbers ahead of time, you wouldn't really know exactly how the market will be reacting. But the fact that these things are happening, it's very important. And as traders, we have to be prepared. And it depends what our plan and strategy is. So we might want to stay out of trades or enter the trades or prepare for the action. Some people like to trade during the news and take advantage of that volatility, a quick scalp here and there. Others like to wait till things settle and market picks reaction. Others, there are also traders that entering into or before the release of the news, so they have their own opinion and strategy and exit strategy and so on. So here, as I always say, I take out only the high impact events. There's much more. You can filter through them. You can find the economic calendar on our web trader or the app or any third-party providers. It's all public information. Everybody reports the same number from the same source. Okay, so here we go. We have Governor of Bank of Australia speaking on Monday. Tuesday, we have employment data from UK and CPI numbers, very important number before the Fed's decision. So that's on Tuesday. We have manufacturing index from Japan. We'll speak about Japan later on, very important. Here comes the Wednesday, something that it's been really, really, the traders are focusing on this, and this could be crucial. And as I said, this decision, or more than decisions, the what we hear on the press conference, it will probably make it or break it this December rally in the equity markets. So we have PPI numbers, then we have decision from the Feds, and then of course 30 minutes later, as I mentioned, Jerome Powell will be speaking, and everybody's really glued to the screens and ears wide open and eyes wide open, trying to really understand and figure it out what exactly the Feds are going to be doing, and any language or any clues about the interest rate cuts will definitely influence the market's moves. Then we have GDP numbers from Australia, and usually I fit it in one page. Here's the second page, as you could see a lot of things happening. So on Thursday, we have employment data from Australia, Here's another interest rate decision that I missed from Switzerland. So Swiss franc definitely will be in focus. You have interest rate decision from UK, Bank of England, and followed by interest rate decision from European Central Bank and press conference after, and retail sales here from US. And Friday, we have industrial production from China, which is very important as we've been speaking about China a lot. We'll talk about it today as well. We have manufacturing PMI and service PMI from Germany, the same data from the European Union as a whole. We have PMI numbers from UK, PMI numbers from US, and Bank of Canada governor speaks on Friday, and that's closing the announcements from the economic calendar for the week. So as you could see, a very intense week, and we'll try to be ready for that. Okay, so let's move to the trading platform, and we'll try to go over things. Just to give you a little bit an idea, we'll be talking about U.S. indices, China, Japan indices. We'll be talking about Apple, Boeing, Citibank, GM, Uber, and some other banking stocks. Commodities, a lot of commodities we'll cover today: oil, natural gas, gold, palladium, silver, wheat, cocoa, and sugar. And Forex, we'll start with dollar index. Definitely Japanese yen we'll touch. And we'll go a little bit over majors and few specific pairs following the past 2 weeks of our analysis. Okay, let's start. We'll start by tradition. We'll start with China. As you know, they're not doing so great. And as you could see, it's a 5th consecutive week on Chinese index. We did have a Thursday low that was kind of recovered, and Friday we held that level. So we have some data coming from China, of course, and we'll be watching what's next. If you zoom out here, as I mentioned to you, we are approaching the level of October 2022, and the low here was 11,150. We're about 150 points away from that. Japan, just to show you something that I mentioned a few times, when the yen starts moving higher, that would really affect the Japanese index. And as you could see here, the 2 consecutive weeks to the downside. On the daily charts, you could see here the big move on yen happened on Thursday, and Nikkei reacted to it immediately. So I'll talk more on yen when we get there, but as you could see here, as the currency really affecting the index. I'll explain the logics, especially for new people, that cheap currency or cheap money, it's better for the companies because they can borrow at the lower interest and it costs them less to borrow the money, and that means they can profit more in a simple way. There's much deeper explanation, but I don't want to go into it. The same idea why the markets were running when the Feds in US were really holding the rates low. So as you could see, I'm going to jump to DAX, to the German index right now. As you could see lately, DAX was very, very strong, and that also connects to the currency as euro has been selling here, and it's all kind of a speculation on the lower interest rates coming to European Union. So just to give you an illustration how the currency drastically could affect the index. So this is Japanese index. Even though the global indices went up, the Nikkei went down on the higher yen. Okay, so let's move to US indices. As I mentioned, we had 6 consecutive weeks to the upside. This is Dow Jones. If you take a look, We are looking very strong here. As I mentioned to you last week, the banking sector and a few other stocks moved the Dow Jones to the upside. And as I mentioned to you, we're facing this resistance here around 36,300, 36 and a half, around there. We are approaching that resistance. And if you take a look at the daily chart, after this huge move to the upside and after a small correction this past week, we had the two up days, but we didn't manage to break through the high of last week. So that's something to pay attention to. S&Ps, we mentioned this level around here, 4,562. We did play with it for a while and then we moved higher. But take a look, this move of 4607 and a quarter. Isn't that funny? We closed right on that level. So for some reason on December 1st, we couldn't go higher than this high of 4607 and a quarter. And even though on Friday we did reach 613 and a half, but we still closed 4607 and a quarter. So there's something magic about this number. That means that the sellers are there, and let's see if they manage to hold it or they let it go. And as I mentioned to you, this week's events, especially from decisions from the Feds and projections going forward, will make it or break the indices. Nasdaq, similar idea. We did have a correction. That's a lot of it to do with Nvidia stock that sold and then tried to recover. And we did close at what's the closing here? 16,092. Okay, so let's see if Nasdaq manages to break out of it, and of course we'll be watching the individual stocks. Germany, we spoke about it. It's been super strong, even though there's a lot of reports that industry is really getting weak in Germany. But all this move happens, and the weakness of euro added power to it. And DAX is at, I think, at all-time highs. 16,805 we closed on Friday at the highs. As you could see here, the high was 16,814 at 805, 9 points lower than the high of the day. So definitely we'll be watching what's happening with DAX. Definitely the decision of European Central Bank on Thursday will be affecting it. So as you could see, the indices are strong. DAX is the all-time highs. The US indices are facing a little bit of a resistance here. Nikkei reacted to the strength of yen to the downside, and our China index is really hanging in here after falling. No sign of recovery for now, and we're about 150 pips away from the next point of reference or the next support that we had. Now let's move to stocks. We start with the champion, Apple, $3 billion company. As you could see here, after nice consolidation here this whole week, we went higher and we closed at 195.63. It's possible that we might continue higher and retest 196 level. And just to check, what was the all-time high is around $198. So we're really getting close to that number. Now, the last thing fundamentally, I read about Apple that they're planning on bringing new product, and that includes new notebooks and new iPads. I guess we'll find out more details when the time comes. So Apple has been strong. Just to remind you, this past week, it regained the status of a $3 trillion company. I'm not sure if I said it the right way. So I think that's significant. And we are on the way to retest the highest. Now, another strong stock to watch is Boeing. It's been super strong after the sell-off. It recovered rapidly and really aggressively. We just broke through this level of resistance the end of November, and we just broke and closed at the highs through the previous high here. And we are above, this is the weekly chart, the high of 242.89. That's the level of the end of July. And we did close above it. So we might continue moving higher. And also a lot of it will be depending on what the market is doing next. As I always say, when the market's going higher, even the weak stocks are going higher. When the market is selling, even the strong stocks are going to sell. So definitely worth watching Boeing. Just to remind us, the few positive things from Boeing since the last air show, they had a lot of orders. Also, they had some clearance for the troubled airplanes that were grounded. And it looks like Boeing is flying. Sounds funny. So that's Boeing. Banking stocks. Goldman is breaking through the resistance. JP Morgan retesting the resistance here. Bank of America as well. And Citibank. I'm watching this one on a possible retest of this spike over here. We are trying to break through it. A few attempts really failed. The first one here on December 6th, and the end of the week, another one, we failed to break through this level. So the high here, 49.07, it could be that this is resistance, at least for now. So let's see what happens. And of course, the banking sector will be very sensitive to what Powell has to say for going forward with interest rate actions. So that's as far as banks. GM stock, nice recovery since the end of strike, and some positive feedbacks or sayings from the CFO, as I mentioned to you last week. And we are rejecting the 200 moving average here. At the same time, is also the strong resistance over here. So we'll be watching actions on GM. Let's see if this move was justified or it was overextended. We might see a correction to the downside. Uber, where are you? Uber is a champion. It is running and it is retesting currently the levels of April of 2021. So you could see here the high was 61.46. We closed 14 cents higher, and this move is vertical to the upside. So let's see if that continues, or we might see a correction here. So definitely worth watching Uber. Walmart is struggling. Where are you, Walmart? Here we go. Since the earnings report, they didn't do great, and even with the market going higher, Walmart is selling. So definitely it's worth noticing. And who knows, I don't see any specific levels here. We just broke through, as I said, the 200 moving average, really intense, 3 consecutive days to the downside. We might see a little bit of a correction, and that if the market turns around. If not, we might continue here and maybe go to around 147, 146 area here to retest the next level of support around 145. So that's also a possibility. So definitely not a good sign for Walmart. And the last one I want to bring to your attention is Pfizer. If you remember, we spoke about Johnson & Johnson going higher, Pfizer going lower. And Pfizer went down here 6% on them canceling the trial for one of the drugs for obesity drug because it was causing a lot of side effects. So now there's some positive news and I'm going to read it here. Pfizer has won European Commission conditional marketing authorization for its Elrexfio drug in certain patients with relapsed or refractory multiple myeloma and incurable blood cancer. So this is a good news. I hope really it helps people, and I hope that will bring some positive things to the company. Initial reaction here, you see after sell-off, we had a little bit of a green day. Let's see if this news will add some positive move for Pfizer. So that's it pretty much with stocks. Again, like I said, just to repeat it, I'm not tired of repeating it, which is very, very important. This week's data or economic calendar events are going to really be very, very serious. They either trigger that rally into the end of the year, or they will put out this fire and the market will slide lower from here. Let's move to commodities. We'll start with, you know what, let's start with copper. Copper reacting to the global markets. Here it was reaction to China. It's still holding strong here, even though China is the strong, has a strong effect on copper. But copper is holding strong for some reason. Maybe it has a hope for global economy recovery here. So let's see if that works for it. Oil. We've been talking about oil pretty much every week. It's a little bit of recovery after this huge sell-off here. We did hold the low of 68.79, and then we broke above 70 again, and we closed at 71 and a quarter almost. So a lot of things about oil. First, it was a fear of supply, then it was fear of demand, and then it kicked surplus of supply built on this fear. So it looks like fear is it's nothing new, right? There's two aspects that driving the market: fear and greed, right? So let's see if oil manages to move higher from here. Natural gas, interesting character. We'll talk about it a lot. It looks like we held 250 here. A lot of actions around this level, as you remember. So 250 tail bounce right back. Let's see if we manage to hold it and turn around. We are below all moving average, and as I say pretty much in the past few weeks, that what can save natural gas now is the fear, again, the fear of cold weather. That means that more natural gas will be or should be used potentially. So we might see the move. Otherwise, it's been really, really weak since breaking through 3.5 back at the end of October. It's been making a lower lows and lower highs, clearly going down. And we came to this level, crucial level of 250. So we'll be watching that. Cocoa, we spoke about cocoa on a possible correction. It did happen, but towards the end of the week, we moved higher again, and it looks like we broke the previous high. So 42.83, we closed 3 points higher than that. Again, especially for new people, to remind you, or remind all of us, that cocoa has been driven also on the lack of supply. There's either weather conditions or other factors, and especially in Ivory Coast, they're predicting much lower harvest of cocoa. So it looks like that triggered a lot of buying, and it's been going. Let me just show you the monthly chart, vertical move to the upside. So let's see if this is a new high. I mean, it is a new current high, and let's see if it holds. We might see continuation, and the people that sold, or traders that sold here, might be panicking, getting out. Some of them probably did, but my observation here, usually when we break to the previous highs, there's an impulse following, because some traders placing the stops here, and the buyers are placing pending orders to buying the breakouts, but it didn't happen. Only 3 points higher, no impulse happened. So again, it's premature to assume that it's not going any higher, but definitely worth assuming that it might be the retest of the top and reversal again. As I said, very important to see the breakouts if there's impulse. If there's no impulse, it might not happen. But on the other hand, as you could see here, the volume is high. So it also could mean that we are possibly moving high from here. So again, we're not going to guess. We'll just see what's next. What's the price action on cocoa? Sugar. Here we go. We did have a nice move on sugar to the upside, and then we had 5 consecutive weeks to the downside, reaching this level 23 and a quarter. We are holding it, and Friday we did close above, so we definitely will be watching on a possible correction to the upside from here. Wheat, where are you? Becomes wheat. After a lot of actions here on these low levels here, we had the nice move that broke easily through the previous resistance, and we did break through the or above the 200 moving average, and we are confirming kind of a support here. So let's see if this move will continue from here. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, if we are continue, we might actually retest the 50 and then 200 weekly moving average. So let's see how wheat acts from here. Let's move to metals. We start, of course, with gold. Gold, after making this robust move to the upside, the very next day sold. It just erased the previous 2 or 3 sessions of advanced move. And we came to retest the previous level. There was a resistance of around 2008, and we did close the week below it at 204. So let's see how this week plays. Of course, again, I don't mean to sound like a parrot, but this week's Fed's decision and projections will definitely affect gold as well. So we might see retest or attempt to retest the highs, or we might see move to the downside and retest maybe the previous level of support. So we'll be watching that. Silver also reacted heavily to the downside after making a nice move to the upside. We did break through the all moving averages here, closing around 23. So let's see what next. Again, the same thing. You know what? Let me just draw the line. Something looks very interesting here. Okay. So if you connect the lows here, we might see continuation and retesting this trend line here, or we might see just a reversal. And again, it will be depending on the upcoming numbers and news. Palladium. Palladium had a nice recovery from 950 in the past, then another sell-off, and we made a lower low here at 926. A lot of traders got shaken out. At the moment we broke the previous low, there was an impulse to the downside. And then we tried to climb up. It was a nice move in the 2 sessions. We reached the high of almost 1,000. The high was 997.70. And Friday, we had a reversal to the downside, and we are holding. What's the close here? 949.70. We are holding this level. Again, the big question here, will it break to the downside and continue lower, or this double bottom will mean 1 and 2 will mean that we are holding, and this is a solid support. Will turn around. I guess we'll find out this upcoming week. Definitely a lot of participants, a lot of traders focusing on palladium in these levels. Okay, we're moving now to Forex, and we'll start with US dollar, of course. As you remember, we spoke about 103 and 104 being a channel. We held 103 after briefly breaking to the downside, but then nicely recovering and testing the top of the channel. So on the 6th, we closed higher. The very next day, we moved lower, and then Friday was a positive day for a dollar. We did break through this 104, but closed lower, about 4 cents or 6 cents shy of 104, still holding above 200 moving average. So what does it mean? Again, we're back in the channel, as I mentioned to you, and I'll repeat it again. In order for a dollar to go higher, we need to have a solid price action here above the 104 building up in order to move higher, and the opposite over here. Not like here, brief action, 1 day closing below, and the 1.5 session next, we are back into the channel. So we need some clarity, and again, this week's events might add to it. As you could see, pound is sitting on 200 moving average here. Euro, it's been super weak. As I mentioned earlier, it affected the DAX in a positive way. We did have a nice move to the downside, bouncing off the 50-day moving average here and closing at 107.55. So again, interest rate decisions this week will affect the currencies. Yen. If you remember, I'm a big fan of yen, and I talk about it pretty much every week. And as I said, the Bank of Japan sooner or later will take that action on increasing the interest rate. And also, I've been saying that Bank of Japan is very tricky, and sometimes they do things unannounced and catch everyone by surprise. So last week we had saying, I believe, by the governor that they are getting closer to that decision. I don't want to quote anyone, but that's pretty much out there. And as you could see, on Thursday, there was a huge move in yen, which recovered almost half of it. I mean, just to give you the proportions of it, the high was 147.18, the low was 141.63. We're talking about more than 500 pips here. A huge move, nice recovery. Let's take a look at the small time frame. As you could see here, that panic sell-off was, let's take, I want to take a smaller time frame just to see it. It lasted for 5 minutes, but we did reach that level of 141.63. And then we had a nice recovery here. So again, it just shows you, even though we recovered, but it just shows you the intense fear or anxiety of the traders the moment any news come in of the Bank of Japan taking actions. Just the news, no actions yet. And take a look of the extent of the move. Imagine when the decision comes, how intense that move will be, to say the least. So again, we did have a nice move to the downside, and we are at 145, and this is a serious level. There's a reason we stopped right here. As you could see, it was a resistance back in end of June, then it became support further before going higher, and now we just broke through it in 1 day, and the very next day we trying to establish a resistance here. So we'll be watching that definitely. Now, if you take a look at other pairs, they did have a significant move to the downside. Similar picture, extended move to the downside, and a little bit, or in some cases, more recovery and more corrections. So we'll be continuing definitely watching Japanese yen, and we are getting closer to that decision. Nobody knows when. First, just to go back, they said that they might do something before the end of the year. Before the last statement that affected it here, they said they might do it next year, around springtime. And now they again saying that it might happen soon. So that's as far as Japanese yen. Now, a few specific pairs I want to take a look at, and this is something that we've been watching for the past few weeks. If you remember, I mentioned to you the Aussie JPY and this key level here around 98.55. So it worked last week, and of course this week with the strength of the yen, it extended and it stopped right on the 200 moving average. So let's see how it acts next. GBP Canadian, we spoke about it. We spoke about this specific level here around between 171, 172. And as you could see here, we broke through the previous level of resistance. The moment we closed lower, we continued to the downside. Again, this week we have an interest rate decision from UK, and also we'll be watching the oil, which is affecting the Canadian dollar as well. So let's see if this move continues or we'll come back and retest this level again. Of course, we spoke about GBP JPY, and we said that 188, I mean, this level would be the resistance, and since then we've been moving lower. And again, of course, this move of yen made this move more intense, and we did bounce off 200 moving average here as well. And the last pair, Canadian CHF, this is important. And if you remember, I mentioned this specific pair as we are at the critical levels here, critical lows. This is the weekly chart. So as you could see here, after retesting the previous support, we went lower and then reversal this past week, and we did close above this key level of 60.6457, and this could give hope to this currency of a recovery. Again, we have interest rate decision from Switzerland as well, and let's see if this recovery will get or gain some momentum. As you could see, we've been a lot of tails below the level and a strong move to the upside on Friday, closing almost at the highs. So CAD CHF probably is the pair of the week because it's a solid level with a solid risk level. As you could see, you can set up, or a trader can really choose wisely where to place the stop, and potential here is pretty significant. Even if we move to match or to reach the 50 moving average here, it's around 0.6673. It's more than it's about 200 pips, and if the trader chooses the stop, 6404 is the low one, that's about 70 pips. So it's almost 3-to-1, a nice potential here. Again, there's no guarantee, but if a trader sees a potential trade with specific risk levels, and if that risk level is something that kind of corresponds with the trader's plan and strategy, why not? And of course, we could easily go lower and try to really paint a picture of lower lows. Everything is possible. Okay, so that's as far as the Forex, and let's take a quick look at Bitcoin. It's a third consecutive month to the upside. We are on the way, as I mentioned to you, retesting possibly 45. Here we go. High of 44,707. We were a little bit shy of it, and that was back on the 8th. And again, it's hard to say anything about it. Just to mention to new people, all this move is driven by a lot of speculations on the new ETFs coming in and awakening desire or interest in cryptos. Ethereum looks similar to Bitcoin. Okay, so just to summarize, again, I want to remind us that we're going to have an amazing and intense and eventful week. We have interest rate decisions from Switzerland, UK, Europe, and of course, most important is the US. with the projections on further actions or future actions of the Feds. We have a lot of numbers. We have a big question. Will we trigger that Santa Claus rally or the opposite? And some stocks are making nice moves to the upside. Definitely, we'll be watching the currencies involved in interest rate decisions. And I want to wish everyone a good weekend or great weekend, whatever's left. We still have a day. And get some energy, be prepared, have a plan, definitely. And most importantly, control your risk, have a plan for risk and money management. Have a wonderful week, all the best, and God willing, we'll be back next Sunday.